What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. Today I want to cover a topic that I haven't necessarily gotten any requests to cover, but something that I still don't think people are very clear on when it comes to Madden 20, and that is, what is the best base defense to run to be more effective in Madden 20? So to get right into it, you guys probably know what my preference is. My preference for the longest time has been to run a 3-4 defense. And let's talk a little bit about why I think a 3-4 is superior to a 4-3. But let's also talk about some of the ways that you can get around just having to stick to one base defense over another. So what you guys will know, I apologize, I'm out of breath for some reason again. What you guys will notice whenever I play gameplay in basically all of my franchises for the most part is I run a 3-4 defense. You'll see it in my schemes whenever I go to my lineup screens and everything like that. But in addition to this, you're probably going to notice that I run multiple different 3-4 schemes and whatnot. Occasionally I'll run a 4-3. But for the most part, the 3-4 defense is superior to the 4-3 as a base defense. And there are other base defenses. You can run a base Tampa 2, like a base 4-6 and stuff like that. But none of those compare to a 4-3 or a 3-4. Those are the two most dominant base defenses that you can run in the game. And are by far the most effective two base defenses that you run in the game. But there are some advantages to both of them. I think there are more advantages to the 3-4 defense than there are to the 4-3 defense, and that's why I tend to run the 3-4 defense more often. As a base, I think it is just more effective overall. If I go to my schemes, actually, you guys will see that I do run a 3-4 under. And what I want you to know is that it doesn't matter what 3-4 scheme you run. From a standpoint of selecting your plays, it's going to basically make no difference. So the whole idea of which scheme you run, as a base defense, 3-4, 4-3, 4-6 bear, Tampa 2, whatever it might be, it's going to depend on your personnel. You're going to want to match up your base scheme to whatever fits the highest percentage on your defense, because you're going to want to get that extra XP for your players being in the scheme fit. So that actually comes first and foremost. But in terms of being the most effective defense, like I said, the 3-4 is more effective. Now, what I generally like to do is I like to pick a defensive playbook that has the option to run basically anything that I want to run. And Carolina's defense, as well as some other ones like the Patriots defense, there are some other ones out there as well, and you can scroll through on your schemes page here and look at what plays and what formations are out of those defenses. You can run multiple different ones that give you access to different defensive formations. Now, the reason that I run Carolina's defense is because it gives me access to a lot of the good 3-4 defensive plays, but it also gives me access to the 4-3, the 5-2, and it gives me access to all the pass coverage formations that I like to run, like the big nickel, the dime, the dollar, the nickel, the quarter, everything basically I could possibly want out of a defense. So I generally will run a more diverse playbook in terms of my defense, but like I said, the most effective base defense is the 3-4, and I'm going to go into practice mode and show you guys some of the plays that are the reason that the 3-4 is more effective, and some of the reason why it is just flat out more effective in terms of stopping the run and things of that nature. And that's pretty much what it's going to boil down to, because realistically speaking, if you're running a base defense, you're pretty much running it to stop running plays with the option of dropping back in coverage. Generally speaking, if you're going to be in a second and long or third and long situation, you're probably going to be dropping into a big nickel, a quarter, a dollar, a dime, whatever it is. You're going to be in a pass coverage set, so your base defense isn't really going to come into play as much. And so that's why your base defense has to be focused more on stopping the run, and that's why I'm looking more for the advantages out of stopping the run with my base defense than I am in terms of looking for advantages in the passing game. So the reason that there are advantages to the passing game in the 4-3, and that is the advantage of the 4-3 defense, is that you have three linebackers off the ball automatically. So they're dropped back, they're able to roam around, they're able to make plays in the passing game better. And the other thing to it as well is that in the 4-3 defense, your guys aren't as committed to the line of scrimmage in the run game, so they're able to kind of roam around and make tackles if your D linemen are capable of holding up blocks. But that's not as big of an advantage as you might think. So let's go ahead and actually jump into the training here, into the free practice, and then I'll show you guys some of the reasons why it's actually more effective to run a 3-4 than it is to run a 4-3. So we're just going to go into normal practice mode. Don't need any advanced settings or anything like that. We'll just run our base playbooks. And like I said, this Carolina playbook, as well as a couple of the other ones, are really effective for giving you options in both the 4-3 and 3-4 as your base sets. And like I said, the type of 4-3 or type of 3-4 that you run really does not matter a whole lot. It's pretty much just based on how many players you can fit into that scheme to get bonus XP out of it. Aside from that fact, if you're playing the game, you're going to be picking the plays, and so the schemes really only come into effect if you're simulating, and the schemes will decide how your team calls plays. So otherwise, you're pretty much just focused on the general idea of 3-4 versus 4-3. So we'll go ahead and we will pick... Actually, I think I have to hit switch sides, that way we can be on defense. So we're going to have to call a random play. Just let a random play run. And then we'll be able to go over to defense, and I'll be able to show you guys a little bit of why the 3-4, in my personal opinion, is superior to the 4-3. And I know that this isn't the most structured video, but just a topic that I think a lot of people are not too sure about, and so I'm going to take some time here and describe the differences in the formation. So the 4-3 benefits from the fact that your 4 defensive linemen are tasked with basically doing most of the work up front, and then your linebackers are supposed to come in and make the tackles. The problems with this is the 4-3 is supposed to be a formation that's going to get pressure on the quarterback. Well, what's the point of that? If you're going to be in a position where you're trying to pressure the quarterback, you're going to be running a nickel, or you're going to be running a big nickel, or a nickel double A gap, or something like that. You're going to be running more of a pass coverage type of set. So what's the point in having a 4-3 as your base if you're trying to use it to pressure the quarterback? I totally disagree with that logic. The logic in picking your base formation, whether it be something like a 3-4, a 4-3, or a 5-2, should be completely dependent on what you're doing to stop the run. And I will take a 3-4 over a 4-3 any day, and I will even sometimes take a 5-2 over a 4-3. The only problem with the 5-2 is that you have a little bit less athleticism on the field in terms of the people that are down on the line of scrimmage. In a 3-4, you have linebackers outside of your DNs that are a little bit quicker, they can hold the edge better, they can catch up to a running back. Whereas if you're in a 5-2, if a running back gets around the edge, those D linemen that are on the edge are not going to be able to catch up to that running back. So that's the big difference between a 5-2 and a 3-4. My favorite play out of the 3-4 is actually the pinch dog 3. And why is this play so effective against other defenses? Because you can adjust out of this formation to do just about anything you want to stop the run, and it's always going to work. One of the things that I've noticed quite a bit with the 4-3 formation is you're going to get blocked quite a bit, especially if you don't have super high-end linebackers. You're going to get your linebackers blocked quite a bit. So what I want to do is I want to focus more here on stuffing gaps than I do having linebackers free to make plays. And so what I'm going to do is, out of this type of formation, I'm always going to line up against whatever they're coming out in terms of the run game. So right here I can put all 5 guys on the line of scrimmage against the run game, and I didn't have time to make my adjustments, but what you can do is you can actually pretty much prevent anything from happening. So I have every single gap covered by simply pinching the D-line, spreading the linebackers, and then bringing the safety down in the middle. Now there is no threat of anybody passing against me over the middle. And so out of the 3-4 formation, what this allows me to do is have everything covered in case they do a play action or they do a quick passing play. But what it allows me to do is it allows me to stuff every single gap. And in addition to that, I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys in the box ready to make a play. And so that makes it super easy to stop the run. So as you can see, they can't block everybody because of the way the 3-4 lines up. So same thing with this formation, pinch the D-line, spread the linebackers, bring the safety down into the box. There's no way that they're really getting a pass off against this, and you now have 9 guys in the box. But what I'll show you is if you run the 4-3 formation, it's not quite the same case because you're not going to be in a good position to be able to actually stop the run. So I'm going to go ahead and pick choose new play. And for me, it's mainly about getting guys on the line of scrimmage matched up against offensive linemen, because I find that if I have my guys roaming around, they don't do as well in terms of stopping the run. So if I come out in a formation like this, they have the edge. That's the difference. That's one of the big differences between the 4-3 and the 3-4. They automatically come out with the edge on the strong side of their formation. Now I can shift my D-line over to the left side, or I can shift my entire defense over to the left side like I did there, but then that leaves a huge gap on the right side, which I have to then come down and fill, and it's just not as well balanced of a formation. You can already see, no matter if I come down with this guy or not, they have a big running lane on this side. And what ends up happening if you're running a 4-3 defense is there are bigger gaps and bigger holes on the defensive side of the ball for the offense to attack. That's one of the real problems of the 4-3 defense when you compare it to the 3-4. When you look at a 4-3 defense, you can identify gaps a lot more easily against the 4-3 defense. I can right now identify 2 or 3 different gaps that you can't really adjust to as well. If I pinch the D-line, yeah, I can pinch the D-line, but then they're going to get the edge against me. So I spread my linebackers out. Maybe I bring this guy down into the box, but the adjustments aren't as effective. You're not going to be putting yourself in as good of a position in terms of actually stopping the offense as what you would want to be able to do. See, they get a giant gap. They didn't have a gap even nearly that big whenever I did the same type of adjustment with the 3-4 defense. So let's say we go back to the 3-4 defense. It is a much more balanced defensive set that's going to allow you to make adjustments to stop the run a lot more easily. So choose a new play here. Go back to defense, and we come out in the 3-4 formation. The 3-4 odd is pretty much the best formation. Any of these are fine, actually, but the 3-4 odd is just the most balanced out of the formations. I don't even have to pick that simple play where it's pinch dog 3. Trust me, the pinch dog 3 is one of the best plays you could possibly pick because you automatically bring 5 guys, but it's designed to bring 5 guys and then everybody else is back in coverage. All you need is one good pass rusher to beat their man, and then you'll have somebody in the backfield. So it will do effective damage against the passing game if that's what you're looking to do with your base formation. But it also has those 5 guys sticking to the line of scrimmage. And why is that important to have all 5 guys sticking to the line of scrimmage? The reason being is that when a offensive team is trying to run the ball against you, the problems come in when your guys start dropping back in coverage and then they get blocked downfield. So what I want to show you guys with this is I have all 5 guys pressed up to the line of scrimmage. It's going to prevent their blockers from being able to do too much. And I thought I caught a run play, but I guess I didn't. But the point of the matter is, in the run game, what I want to show you guys, and I'll show it on the replay here, is all 5 of these guys are going to be coming and filling a gap automatically instead of dropping back into coverage and creating holes for the offense to run. So all 5 of those guys come upfield. And yes, there are minor holes for these guys to be able to run, but it makes it a lot easier for you to fill those holes because you know that all 5 offensive linemen or all 5 positions here are occupied, which means that the one extra guy that they have can't block both linebackers and can't block your safety that you're usually bringing down into the box. And so that is a lot more effective than running a 4-3 where you know that there's going to be a free offensive lineman, going to be able to get down and get on your linebacker. And if it's the right lineman on the right linebacker, can spring the running back for a huge gain. So let's go ahead and run a similar play against a 4-3 defense. So we're going to go ahead, just run a 4-3, base 4-3, cover 3 sky, and then on offense we'll go to single back again, and we'll run the 24 zone open. And this is where you really start to run into problems. Is, yeah, I can bring the safety down into the box, but where do I defend here? Because they have the edge on the left side, as you guys can see. They have that blocker has the edge basically outside of my D end. I don't have enough guys to occupy their linemen, which means that if one of those linemen goes upfield and captures the right linebacker or the right defensive back, they can spring a huge gap for the running back to run through. And that's what you guys will see right there. It's a lot easier to find gaps. It's a lot easier to run the football against the 4-3 defense. And this just comes from experience playing the game a whole lot. It's just simply easier. It's harder to fill gaps on defense with this type of formation compared to a 3-4. And hopefully I'm making that clear enough. I know my demonstration isn't the best, but just from my perspective, I want you guys to know that in my experiences, in how much I've played the game, the 3-4 is a lot more effective as a base defense for what you want it to do, because your base defense is primarily going to be used in stopping the run. You want to have the 3-4 over the 4-3, and in addition to that, the 4-3 is, in my opinion, less effective in pass coverage, and the reason being is that you know where all the players are at. So if I'm calling this play right here, if I'm calling this 4-3 defense, and let's say I'm on offense passing this football, I know exactly where every single player is dropping back into coverage. And I'll show you guys. I know if I'm going to pass this ball and these guys are playing a regular 4-3 defense, all 4 of these guys are coming. Maybe one of these other linebackers is going to blitz or something like that, but I pretty much know that this guy is dropping into a yellow zone right here. I know that the same thing's happening for this linebacker, dropping into a yellow zone, and then this linebacker is dropping into a zone between a yellow here and a purple out here. It's very obvious and very easy to read a 4-3 defense, whereas it's very easy to read a 4-3 defense in comparison to a 3-4. I find it much easier to pick apart a 4-3 defense. So if I come out in a 3-4, it's much more difficult to figure out where all of the players are going to be dropping back into a certain coverage. So, you know, if for example here, where are all these guys dropping back into coverage? As an offensive player, this guy could be in man coverage, he could be in zone coverage. You don't know that pre-play, and so it's not as easy to read a 3-4 defense. It's much easier to read a 4-3 than a 3-4, in my personal opinion. I do a much better job of picking apart a 4-3 defense, and I'm much more successful against the 4-3 defense. And that's one of the problems, is that so many people run 4-3 defenses because they think having those 3 linebackers roaming around to make plays is the way to go, when in reality that's just handicapping you because you don't have enough guys on the line of scrimmage and you automatically have linebackers dropping back in coverage. And what you'll see here is this guy drops back in coverage. That allows him to get blocked. Now, this isn't a 3-4 defense, but you have more guys dropping back in coverage, which puts them in a disadvantageous position in the run game. So what I want to show you guys is in the 3-4 defense, you automatically have these 5 guys pretty much engaged at all times on the line of scrimmage. So you know you have 5 guys in position to play the run. No matter what play you call on defense, these 5 guys are in position to play the run, and they're well balanced, they're well spread out, in that you know you will be able to get pressure in the run game from all 5 of these spots. Whereas if you're in a 4-3 defense, you only know that you have 4 points of contact up front. And the other benefit to having the 3-4 defense is you don't know as an offense which one of these guys is dropping back in coverage. You don't know if it's this guy. You don't know if it's this guy. You don't know if it's both of those linebackers. You don't know if it's neither of those linebackers. But in terms of a 4-3 defense, you know exactly who is coming on every single play, or pretty much every single play. So let's go ahead and choose a new play. Come out in a 4-3 and show you guys exactly how you know who is coming. So you come out in a base 4-3 formation. I know that these 4 linemen are coming at me. So I know who to block. I know who to throw the ball at. I know who to prepare as a pass rusher for. And I know, when I'm running on offense, which gaps I need to look for. So if I look at an instant replay here of this defense, I know 100% for a fact that it's these 4 guys that are coming at me. 100%. Pretty much every single time it's going to be these 4 guys coming at me. Occasionally you'll get a blitz from another guy from this level, but basically 100%, 99% of the time it's these 4 guys, and therefore it is predictable. And you're able to go, hey, look, I have a double team on this guy, I have one-on-one with this guy, I'm going to have a huge gap right here between this D end and this D tackle, and I'm going to have pretty much 5 yards because I know that this guy's dropping into a yellow zone, so his first instinct's going to be to drop back in coverage, and so I'm basically going to have a free pass to be able to get through this gap right here, at least like 3 or 4 yards given to me. That's pretty much how I look at a 4-3 defense, but you can't do that with a 3-4 defense because you don't know who's coming every single play. It's not a guarantee. And that's why the 3-4 defense is superior to the 4-3 defense in my eyes as a base defense. I'm more successful with it. The plays are better out of it. And as a base defense, your responsibility is to stop the run. And therefore, the 3-4 defense is better. So hopefully I explained that well. I know that it's not the best example in the world. I know that I didn't do the best at explaining it. If you guys want further breakdown of it and some of the plays to call out of those formations, definitely let me know. And as you guys could see here, the running back read exactly what I told you he would do. And I know that this guard pulled, but regardless of that fact, this is a slow developing run play, and he still managed to pick up like 4 yards by just going to that gap that I told you guys he would go to. That's exactly what happens. That's exactly how you can read a 4-3 defense. You know where the ball's going. So hopefully it helps you guys out in some way. I know it's not the best video in the world. If you guys want further breakdown, let me know down in the comments section. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you guys in the next one.